Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Mary Pericone, and I'm here with Dr. Suzanne Lee for another conversation in our continuing discussions on creating your own reality. Hello, Dr. Sue. How are you today?
I'm actually really doing good today. Beautiful,
Good.
beautiful day outside. It's wonderful.
Wonderful. Sue, it occurred to me that perhaps we should do something a little different today, and that is to start out by consulting with the Arcturians and asking them what they might suggest as to the topic of our conversation under the umbrella of creating your own reality. You and I talked for a few minutes before this call, and we had some thoughts and ideas, but it might be good to bring in the third party.
Absolutely. I think that's always a good idea. Greetings, Mary, and all the wonderful people who, within the timeless now, will be receiving this message. We understand that you have questions about how you should proceed with the topic of creating reality within this now. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Well, the first thing that we would like to say is to remember that you can only really create your reality within the now. Because within the now is when you are within your fifth-dimensional consciousness, in which you have the ability to create your reality with the combination of your thoughts and emotions. While in your third-dimensional consciousness, you can create a plan that you will lay out in a sequential fashion, which will take concentration, work, and effort to fulfill. That is fine for the 3D program. For those of you that have taken on an earth vessel, came to the third dimensional to slow down your life so you could understand the rules of cause and effect. And as these rules of cause and effect, which are basically energy out is energy back, as you are moving into that mastery of cause and effect, you realize that there are no mistakes and there are no accidents. Everything is energy back from what you have sent out. So as you begin your discussion, ladies, we would suggest that you discuss the energy that you have been putting out in the past. Suzanne has a story around that, and how that energy will return, and how do you right yourself once you have fallen into that lower frequency. For the frequency of consciousness dictates the frequency of your creation. Thank you, ladies. We will hand it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you to the Arcturians. Wonderful. Sue, I love this phrase that frequency of consciousness dictates frequency of information. And it's being as clear as we can be, the clarity of what we are putting out and receiving. And creation and our need, it seems to me that creation and our need to create occur during times of change. And times of change are constant.
Yes.
And to the degree that we release, we create a void, and that void has the potential to be filled, if you will, for lack of a better word, to be filled with a higher vibrational frequency that brings us to our next step. And oftentimes when we are in a state of change, if you will, and we're putting energy out, what we're getting back can be upsetting. It can sometimes be painful. It can also be filled with gratitude and joy. It's the flow of the synchronicity as we're working through that creation. But I want to stop here and ask you to tell your story, because I think that this story that has unfolded for you over the past few weeks is a wonderful example of what the Arcturians are talking about.
Okay, and also I want to go first. You did a Freudian slip, which was actually really correct. You said the frequency of your consciousness dictates the frequency of your information, where it was the frequency of your consciousness dictates the frequency of your creation. However, creation and information are the same, because the information is the message, that urge within that is saying, time for a change. Something needs to change now. And that information that it's time to change then creates that impetus to actually create this new reality. Now also, if the information is negative and fearful, which is information that I was giving myself, then we're going to be in a real pickle. And so now to my story, and I'll continue with the information creation, which I think is a wonderful little Freudian slip for you. But it was time for me to make a major shift in my life and to let go of a major point of identification of myself. And my unconscious or superconscious, either one of those that I was not in control of, initiated it. And my conscious kind of stood there in horror and watched as it happened. And then it unfolded this whole sequence of events, which meant that I had an opportunity here to realize that something had come to its conclusion, which freed me up to move into a brand new expression of myself. However, I got stuck in the sorrow of the conclusion, and I got stuck in the judgment of what I had unconsciously done, and I went into fear-based thinking of, if I do this, then this bad thing will happen, bad thing, bad thing. And if I do that, then this bad thing will happen, bad thing, bad thing. Well, I was a basket case. And then I'm not exactly sure how it evolved, but I think it was mostly from the Arcturians, because a couple of things happened. Now, the first thing that happened was so amazing, and I completely forgot it. I was either first waking up or first going into meditation, I'm not sure. And right in front of me, I saw the face of the Arcturian, just a face, this kind of oblique, cloudy, star-filled face. And that face was sending me downloads of higher frequency of light, which was unbelievable. Now, as I'm sure most of you know, whenever we get a huge download of higher frequencies of light, first things that happens is it rooters down to our subconscious and frees up all that we have to release if we're going to actually live what that download has displayed for us. And so hence I went into the whirlwind of every imaginable fear of what could go wrong, and etc., etc. And then X amount of time after that, I had another experience where I was waking up and conversing with the Arcturians like we were two buddies sitting in the living room. The most concrete example of it I've ever experienced. Now, concrete is kind of a weird thing for talking to an Arcturian, but, it was validating. And so I had that experience, and then I couldn't quite understand it, so I tried to relax into it more, and then I'd drift off to sleep. And I'd wake myself up, and I couldn't quite hold on to it. So I went into the living room, and I wrote the whole thing out. And then life happened, and I was gone, and it sat in my computer for 3 or 4 days, totally unedited and unread. And, by the way, forgotten. So, and that's, I want to say to all of you, is that it's really important that we document our higher dimensional experiences, because we are having them in a higher frequency of our consciousness. Once we return to our physical self, we have a hard time remembering it, and or remember it in a distorted manner. Well, in writing about the story of Jason and Sandy, I decided to incorporate that, because I incorporate most of me into all of these writings. And then I had to edit it. Wow, what a difference. I hadn't realized I'd gotten this amazing message. And now, since there is no time, as I'm sure you are all experiencing, I mean, I am bipping in and out of timelines, and it's a little embarrassing because I forget what I just said because I was off wherever and came back maybe 1 second later, but 2 lifetimes later in my consciousness, which we're all doing. So timelines and sequential events are becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. But somewhere in the midst of that, I just let go. I let go of the struggle. I let go of the judgment. I let go of the desire. I just let go. Which I had been prepared for the past 6 or 8 months. I've been prepared for this major letting go by having to let go of this thing. Then I just let go. And then when I let go, my decision was there. And the decision was to release that which was complete and to bravely step into that which was not yet even created. However, the foundation of it was created, but my direct expression within it was brand new. And what has become very evident is that if and when I allow my consciousness to drop, then I go back into that old place that I was in. And the reason why I made this decision is because I have been receiving insight for quite a while and hearing from a lot of other people that now is the time, within this now of no time actually, we are being called upon to simplify our lives and to relax into the flow of new earth, the frequency of earth. And what I got now, which I forgot, and I will say, then I'll hand it over to you, Mary, but what I got from this conversation of going in and out and back and forth, in between this and that, is that there is a frequency in between that which is our physical self, and an in between that frequency that we have established as our spiritual self. And that we are creating our reality within this in-between frequency. Because this in-between is New Earth.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Sue. Thank you for articulating that. It sounds, because I've spoken to you a number of times during this period, you have, you have captured the essence of the experience, the beginning, the middle, and the end, if you will. And you see there, I go right into sequence. But you've captured it. From and can see it now from a broader perspective.
Yeah.
From seeing each piece of it, and then how it unfolded, and what are you looking at now? What are you looking at now as a next step, because you freed yourself up from the decision-making process, from those issues that surfaced because you were ready to address them and to deal with them, and in many ways to heal them. When we began these conversations, the Arcturians said something that we have touched upon in our past conversations, that yes, we plan in sequence in 3D, but we must understand the rules, or perhaps the laws of cause and effect. And we have a tendency in the third dimension to manipulate the outcome, we try to control the outcome, and I get that. However, we can, in fact, become the outcome, be within the flow of the change by, as we said in our last conversation, first not being attached to the outcome, but also you shared that you began looking at all of the probabilities that were attached to the decision that you were in the process of making, but you were not looking at what I want, but rather what I don't want, which immediately go and change the vibration. Wow. It's almost like a catch-22, isn't it?
Yes.
That we are caught in that in-between, which is not a comfortable place because we're not accustomed to it in the physical. But the more we allow to rise to the surface within us, and we can look at it and have the intent of release, the more the energy will expand within us to allow the decisions to unfold, to allow the change to unfold, if you will. It can almost not be described in third-dimensional language. It has to be experienced, if you will, because there are definite thoughts and definite feelings attached to those thoughts that can be guideposts.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that out, because in the process of this, I remembered something else. And the something else that I remembered the way out of my quandary. I just, as you said that. And the way out of my quandary is that I did somehow pull it together enough to say, I release this to the highest expression of myself. I release this to the highest expression of myself. And I remember at this one situation, sitting before the window and looking out the window and saying, I release this to my higher expression of self. And then instantly it just came in, and I called and said what I needed to say to end the old, to move into the next expression. And then the other thing about the in-between, what the Arcturians have said is that this in-between is the new baseline for Earth. We've had the old 3D baseline, so that's the 3D, that's the baseline. In other words, like the floor, and you could go down below the floor into your sub and super subconscious and etc., etc. But that was the third dimension. But now this frequency is it's beyond the fourth. It is like a beginning fifth dimensional, but it is now the new baseline.
It is the new norm.
The new normal, yes. This is the new normal.
The new normal.
Yes.
Yes. And weren't you saying make ascension normal?
Yes.
Make
ascension
some time ago.
The new normal.
So now it's the new normal, right? We don't even have to say it's the make ascension normal. This is the new normal. We tap into it, don't we?
Yes.
We tap into it, but it sometimes feels uncomfortable because we're not as familiar with it as the old, the previous matrix, if you will, thought patterns, ways of being. And now as we move into this higher frequency, and that's what it is, it's a higher frequency, first, it's happening instantly. I wonder if it were 10 years ago and we were having this discussion, I wonder if you would have, if this issue within you would have surfaced, process, unfold, resolve this quickly, Sue, because this has been occurring for about 30 or 60 days, hasn't it?
Yes, it really has a lot to do with retiring from the person that I have been. So
Right.
it's based a lot on releasing old sense of self.
Yes.
And embracing a new sense of self. And then, of course, because I'm shifting out of that means of financial gain and moving into the other means, which is based a lot more on trust than that which was tried and true over, 30 years.
Yes.
So I had 30 years of history to say, okay, this works.
Yes.
All right. Now, fortunately, I've started, I think this is probably my fourth expression of work. So I have done this before, but this is the most radical because I always overlapped it a lot more than I have this time. So this is much more of that leap of faith, which is what we're all being called to do now, is to take that leap of faith. And I remember in one of the Indiana Jones movies about the Holy Grail, and he saw the Holy Grail, but there was this big crevasse between him and it. And somewhere he heard leap of faith, leap of faith, leap of faith. And he put his foot out over the crevice and up from nowhere came the path. But it was only on the foot that he was on as he walked across in that manner. And that is really a lot what we are doing now. We are just putting our foot down and waiting for the ground to reach up and touch it.
I wonder how many people listening to this conversation have had either a dream or a vision of standing on the edge of a cliff and having to make the decision whether or not to jump. I can name 4 people that I've spoken to in the last year that have had that type of experience where it was a moment of decision, a moment of change, the opportunity, if you will, and they just took a running leap right off the cliff.
Yes.
Not knowing what the outcome would be. And that is very much, it's always been that way. In my opinion, it's always been that way, but we're looking at it differently now. We're looking at it differently because there is a clarity. The increase in the frequency, the influx of energies which have created that influx and increase in our vibration, both on a personal level and a planetary level, allow us a greater degree of clarity.
Yes.
And we have that when we have really worked on those issues in our lives that we need to heal and reconcile and let go of. The past, if you will, even yesterday. So being in the now, the past, the present, the future, in the now, gives us that freedom to take the next step. The first thing that the Arcturians said today was that creation occurs in the now of the fifth dimensional consciousness. And the word that immediately came to mind, and I wrote down, was trust. Yes. Trust. We have to trust. We have to trust in ourselves. That's all there is. Yes. And being open to know what the next step will be for us.
Yes. And to know that there will be a next step, that we are guided in every moment. And we have been guided, but we were guided by our egos or by some being that was way, way up high that you had to meditate to or pray to or whatever. And so we grew up with that.
Outside of yourself.
Outside of ourselves. Outside and above, way above ourselves, there was assistance. But now what's happening is that there is no outside of ourselves. Outside, when we look outside, we're looking into the third dimensional hologram. That's a hologram. That's not real. The truth, is inside of our consciousness. And so this higher guidance is inside of us. And we are inside of it. For we are one and intertwined. And we are all on this cusp of a major paradox change. And so our ego, especially our wounded ego, is really having a heyday. It's frightened. What will happen to me? What will happen to me? Will I be gone? What will happen to my physical life? And then on the other hand, we have to remember that ascension is not an escape. It's a transmutation. And we don't get to escape anything. And so all of those frightened parts inside of us, they are expressions of our lower state of consciousness. And we need to turn around and give them unconditional love. We don't need to deal with them or go into meditations or even write journals and all that psychological stuff. If you want to, you can, but you don't have to. Because it's just energy fields. And we can now, and the Arcturians told me this and made it very clear when we had that where Venus transited between Earth and the Sun.
Yes.
And I got it very strong that from that point on, everything is an energy field. And if we deal with it directly on an energetic level, it will be much faster, much easier, and it will be able to waver multidimensionally. It will be able to expand down into our deep subconscious, which might try to sabotage us, and all the way up to our oversoul, who will share with us the myriad incarnations and myriad ascensions we've already experienced within the now.
Yes. The new frequencies cannot support the 3D paradigms. But we are not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Instead, we're transmuting them and transforming them within the new vibration.
Yes.
Wow.
And the thing is, within the new vibration, there is no resonance of fear. It's a fifth dimensional vibration. There's no trust. There's trust.
And knowing.
Yeah. And so then from that vibration, it is so much easier to clean up and transmute whatever is called to you in terms of physicality that you have agreed before you even took your body. And we have agreed, a great many of us, to assist Gaia, to assist this beautiful planet.
Yeah.
And so I'm still getting that, at least I and those of us that came specifically for Gaia will maintain a physical form, which we can move in and out of, like ascended masters move in and out. We will maintain a physical form because that is our plug-in to the physical part of Gaia. Because as we are deeply connected with Gaia and we transmute ourselves, we transmute her as well. And just as we go into fear, we send that to Gaia as well. So it is really about surrender. Just surrendering and surrendering. Because it's an operating system. The third dimensional operating system was about gathering information in a linear fashion, creating a plan, projecting out into the future, following the plan, putting the energy out so that you could have the energy back, because third dimension is cause and effect. That was that third dimensional paradigm. Now, within the fifth dimensional paradigm, we're in the now of the one. Everything is. So, even as we perceive, we're beginning more and more to perceive these layers of reality, different frequencies of reality. And we can climb these frequencies of reality like we can climb a staircase. And in order to deeply experience each frequency of reality, we need to surrender into it. But there is no time. They're all existing, all within the exact same moment of the now.
All the potentialities.
Yes.
All the potentialities.
All the potentialities.
Wonderful conversation, Sue. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's wonderful. And
well,
thank you, everyone, for tuning in. However you tune in, this will be on the blog as usual and the YouTube. So see you there with our consciousness, right? Mary will come in our consciousness.
Absolutely.
And we will
Next
personally
time.
give each of you a hug as you come on. So as you listen to this and see the YouTube, just feel our fifth dimensional hug, and we're welcoming you to share this message.
Absolutely. And we're all holding hands, of course.
Of course.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Blessings.